Welcome to Character Crusade number 25.
Yay!
Yay!
You're listening to Character Crusade.
Welcome back, dear listeners. You are listening to Character Crusade, episode number 25. I'm Stu.
And I'm Joe.
And I'm Jessa, sitting in today for Matt.
Yes, that's right. And tonight's topic of discussion are in-game rituals. We are going to have a good time talking about in-game rituals. And these are rituals of all kinds, the minor ones, the major ones, things that we do in-game that help to put us in character. Things that help us kind of mark our place in the world as we go through our game sessions. But first, let's go through some announcements. So we are recording tonight closer to our actual release date, so it gives us a unique opportunity to make announcements that are a bit more timely than we do some other times. And so I think one of the things that I wanted to do was just give a big thank you to William, who supported us in the amount of a $2 recurring donation on Patreon today.
Nice. Thank you, William.
Really appreciate that, William. And we are going to put
Yay,
that money to
William.
good use. That's right. It helps to keep the lights on and pay for hosting and pay for websites and all that stuff. So
And
really appreciate it.
perhaps beer. I don't know, maybe.
Beer? What are you talking about? Yeah.
What is this you're talking about?
What is this beer you speak of? Yes, beer. That is essential.
Well, it lubes the mic.
It
so to
does.
speak.
It does. Absolutely. In some other news, we do have some 5-star reviews. I am going to let Matt cover those in the next episode. He is not here to join us, but he is the keeper of the reviews. So he will be covering those for us in episode 26, which we're looking forward to. Let's see, what else do we got going? Very cool. We have a bunch of really cool listener submissions. So we've been getting, obviously, a little bit of fan art, but we've also been getting stories, character stories, and we've actually been getting so much of it. Matt has been fielding questions on our Facebook page, and we've been getting so much content that we have decided to launch a new program where Matt is actually going to read these as he has time. We're going to do some audio production around them, and we're going to release them in the weeks in between podcast episodes when we have the content. So we're very excited about that. We're still toying around with the format and stuff like that, but it's probably going to be, like Character Crusade Presents, and we'll have Matt do some readings, probably include some music and some branding. It ought to be pretty fun. And that stuff will all go out on SoundCloud along with all the rest of our podcast episodes. So if you submit something, you'll be able to link to the audio file out there and send it to all your friends and family and whomever else cares.
It might be important to denote that submission isn't a guarantee on excuse me, on a reading from Mr. Matthew.
Correct. If you just submit to us the lyrics to your favorite Judas Priest song, we're not going to put
Probably
that up
not
there.
going to be.
I would still
Matt,
read it and enjoy it.
Yeah,
but
we'll
wouldn't put it out
collectively
there.
probably look them over and follow up as needed with
Yes.
the original author, and so
And for an
there's
extra-
still be some work to do, but yeah.
Exactly.
For an extra $5 a month, you might talk me into wrapping it.
Ooh,
I'll go Snoop Doggy
Ooh.
on it.
there we go. Yeah.
Jessa
Like
Jess.
the worst. Jessa. Smackety smack.
I like the sound of that.
Well, we'll see if we can put some funds together and get you a giant clock to wear.
Exactly.
That would be
Right
the
on my
best.
forehead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Things
So-
I do.
Keep your eyes and ears open for more announcements about that. That's really Matt's baby. He's kind of putting it together, and we're providing support in that area. So he'll be making those announcements, and really the plan is to just take in the content, kind of go through it and figure out what is worth recording, and then release it as he's able to finish it. So there's not going to be any hard and fast schedule on that kind of thing. But it is something we thought would be kind of fun to do.
Yeah,
So,
I'm kind of looking forward to it. I think there's some really good stuff that's coming through.
absolutely.
So
yeah, we've gotten actually quite a few submissions. So I think the plan is once we have time here, we're going to formalize it a little bit more, and then we'll be able to give you a URL for a form on the website where you can submit those things.
right, yeah, we'll
Yep.
keep it separate from the other form.
Absolutely. The other thing is Five Fables episode 3 was released this afternoon. If you haven't had a chance to take that in, feel free to go and do that. I'm particularly excited about this one because it's my opportunity to get back into Let's Play. And it wasn't until I actually went back and looked at my production work previously that I realized it's been almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years in April since I last produced a Let's Play, which blows my mind. It doesn't feel like that long, but it actually has been almost exactly 2
A lot
years.
of water under the bridge.
I know.
But,
It was.
It's nice to hear though. I mean, it
Yeah.
really is. It's kind of fun to hear it again.
Yeah, I put something out on Twitter earlier this week about how I was dusting off the old intro
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
True.
yeah.
and getting reworking the muscle memory in my throat. It kind of got to a point where I was so used to saying that I just rattled it off without thinking, and I had to go back and kind of remember what that was. But it was really gratifying, like to get in front of the mic and actually say those words
Oh, I
was
bet.
like really awesome. So
Cool.
yeah, it's been super fun, and I'm really happy with how the episode has come out, because I feel like when I stopped making Let's Plays was right at the point where I was just starting to find my voice, where I was kind of figuring out what my style was.
Right. Yep.
And now that I've had 2 years to think about it, and 2 years to work on my production skills, and 2 more years, frankly, to get comfortable in front of the mic, it's not like I have been sitting back doing nothing. I've been doing lots of podcasting and lots of recording the last couple of years.
Right.
So
Both here and professionally. And
yes,
for your company that
yep,
you work for.
exactly. I do another podcast, so it's been really nice to just kind of get in front of the mic and feel like everything was there. Everything
Came back
I had
pretty
been
quick for you.
working on kind of gelled really nicely, and I was happy with the outcome. So
Was it like
Excellent.
getting right back on, the bicycle? I mean, how long did it take
Yeah.
before you get into that wonderful zone that happens on the mic where you forget that it's in front of you and you're in Skyrim and you're there and is just flowing out. Did that
Not-
happen in this first episode?
Yeah, it didn't take long at all.
Nope.
You know,
It-
welcome, dear viewers, to Couch Warrior TV on YouTube. I'm the Couch Warrior, and you are watching 5 Fables,
Nice.
episode 3.
That was kind of the fun,
Yeah.
the fun catch
Uh-huh.
because
Uh-huh.
you know your last one was so extensive and ran for such a long
Yeah,
time
yeah, I
that
know.
all of a sudden it's not Uranus.
No, it's not Aranis Arcana.
No.
I was like,
Yeah,
trip
and you're
myself.
watching
Fables,
Aranis
I'm-
Arcana. Yeah.
Yeah.
no?
And I decided to, I made a conscious effort to, I made the decision to cut my sign off way short. You know, I used to have the sign off, you've reached the end of another episode.
I
And-
liked your sign off
Yeah.
because it was just barely longer than mine, and mine is
Yeah.
long.
Yeah. Well, it's like back then I just felt like I had to plug every damn thing,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
and
yeah.
I don't know. I'm over that. I mean, the fact is I'm doing this Let's Play and I'm not monetizing it. So why do I even care? It's just, I'm doing it purely because I love to do it.
Right.
So at this point, I'm just saying, and that's a wrap. Silence is our battle cry.
There you go.
Done. And that's
Yeah.
enough,
Yeah.
Or skooma.
So, yes. Skooma is our preferred drink. No, that doesn't roll off the tongue.
we'll have to work
No.
on that.
Silence is
Yeah.
our battle cry,
Yeah.
even though, you may not even be playing the assassin
No.
in that particular episode, you
Mhm.
know?
Silence is always going to be my battle cry, no matter what. That became kind of like the channel signature slogan, and it remains that way. It
I
resonated
agree.
with
I
people,
agree.
and so I think it'll just always be that, no matter what. And you know what? We are going to have at least 2 assassins I can think of during the course of the whole story.
Oh,
So, Robart, I would classify him as probably more of a ranger type, but we have other characters that'll be in the story that will fit that pretty neatly, I think. So anyway, very excited about that. Give it a listen and see if you like it. And leave any comments that you feel you need to. Do we have any other announcements? Joe, you release another chapter?
I have them scheduled out, so they will
Okay.
be releasing every 2 weeks.
Okay.
On Wednesday afternoon Central Standard Time. So
Okay.
when is the next
So
one scheduled?
What's next? Chapter 5 or chapter 6?
Chapter 6.
Chapter 5
Chapter
is out.
5 is up.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. That one. I haven't read chapter 5 yet.
Yep.
So I got to get and do
Chapter 5, which is up now, is really revolving around her preparing to leave Windhelm.
that.
Chapter 6 will begin her life on her own.
Okay. Cool.
So that should be coming out. When did that come out? I don't have the calendar in front of me.
It came out March 9th.
9th. Okay, so 14 days after that will be what? 23rd? Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay. Cool.
So chapter 6 should be out on the 23rd, and then every 2 weeks after that.
And just to be clear, you've finished all that writing now, right?
Yes, that's
done.
It is all just out there waiting
Awesome.
to be made public. So it's all scheduled out. It's automated. So the only thing I will probably do is, if I remember, go back prior to its scheduled release and just give it a quick read through and see if there's any last minute changes I want to make. But no, it's all docked and ready to go.
The cool thing about this is this is all Inarath's background story. So this gets us caught up with her journal entries. And now after you finish these 11 chapters, now you've got all the journal entries that kind of log all of her activities during the course of your gameplay, which I think is really kind of a cool continuation of her story.
So this will get her all the way to, if you have been listening for a while and remember, she started out in Sindirian's field lab.
That's right.
So this will bring her all the way to that point, the narrative that's being released.
Sindirian's field lab, for those of you who may not know this yet, is in Blackreach, and it is Sindirian is a character from Oblivion.
Is he? He? She? I don't know. I never played Oblivion.
I think so. I think that, and of course, leave a comment wherever you're listening if you want to correct us. But I believe Sindarian is a skeleton that you find that's actually an alchemist that that you run into in an earlier game, and I believe it's Oblivion. But he's researching Crimson Nirnroot. Nirnroot.
Yes.
And you can get that start by using
alternate
start mod.
Yes.
That is correct.
One of my favorites.
So the story that's online will bring you to that point eventually, and then after that, I guess my plan is I will start prepping and getting her journal entries from my gameplay. In a consistent format, so that we can release those. And as had been mentioned, I don't know, well, if it was been on air or off, but the plan is to translate these into in-game books as well.
Right. That's cool. So each chapter would constitute an in-game book?
Correct.
Okay.
That's the plan right now.
Right. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that comes together, and then how the journals translate into books as well, which I think is very cool. The other part of this is a great actually transition into some announcements on the mod side too. Joe's got some updates for us as well, but one of the things we're planning to do is take those materials that Joe's producing and make them into books. But we also have a series of journal entries from Spurious from 5 Fables that'll be made into in-game journals as well.
Sure.
So you can go and kind of take in the writings of Spurious Teufel in-game if you want to as well. And that stuff we'll be releasing as an independent mod, but if you download it, you'll have options as to where to obtain those books. So you can either, if you're just kind of playing without the House of Troubles, you'll be able to get those books in the library at the Mage College.
Yeah, they'll be part of a leveled list, so they will appear in the Mage College and, of course, in the House of Troubles.
Yep. If you have House of Troubles, we've got some bookcases in there, and all of our stuff will be going in there.
That's the plan, to release them. They're not out there yet, but they should be shortly or in the relatively near future.
Yep. So Joe has been working feverishly on the next rollout of House of Troubles. Initially, what you've been focusing on is just kind of working on some compatibility issues, correct?
That is correct. I know our next release for the House of Troubles will be planning on adding a new character, some custom voice work, possibly. That would be the preference. If we have time and we can, we will, but we don't want to delay it too long either. So we have a new character who's going to be able to sell you some interesting things, some out of the norm that we're going to be working to customize.
And he will be voiced by Joe. If we voice him, Joe will be doing the voicing for obvious reasons once you see him.
I will be voicing our new entrant or
I don't know what you call him. He's a merchant.
He's a merchant.
Yeah, a quirky merchant, though.
So he will be in the House of Troubles, and you'll get some interesting things. And the plan with him as well in the future is to create him so that he is a quest giver. So we will have some possible quests, and I don't know if we're going to have time to roll those into this next release or not, but that's kind of the vision for that particular character.
In the interim, Joe has done some work to make our mod compatible with a couple of other mods that are fairly popular.
There's a couple other mods out there. One is Unique Border Gates, which is fairly popular, and I see why. It's a
cool.
very nice mod. It's well done. But there was some cropping and overlapping issues that were occurring with our mod. So I've been working on coming up with this and creating this plug-in patch for it that will make the two compatible.
Cool.
And then there's also another one called Salt Mines of Skyrim, a much lesser known mod, but still interesting, which basically allows you to go in and mine salt deposits that will give you material to refine into salt, like little bowls of salt. So
cool.
That was a lot less extensive to patch, but we were still kind of overlapping it, and it was not compatible. So we've got a couple patches out there that we'll be getting up on the Nexus hopefully soon, so that if you have those mods or you want to have the combination of them, you'll be able to do that. And it's important to note that with the unique border gates, and we'll have this up on the Nexus page too, but the patch that I created is for the all border gates download from Unique Border Gates. Unique Border Gates does allow you to download individual ones, or they have a pack with all of them. Personally, I would say, why not grab them all? And I wasn't looking at that page close enough at the time, so that's the one I grabbed. So that's the one I patched for. And quite honestly, I just don't know if
that's
going
enough.
through the work to patch
that's enough.
Each
several
modular
ESP.
one.
So
yeah.
This patch will apply to the Unique Border Gates all version only. So, but again, we'll have that outlined on the Nexus when we put them up.
Yeah, and we've already taken steps to make sure that our mod is compatible with dyeable capes as well.
Right.
As
That's
long
out
as
of the box. So.
Yeah, out of the box, we are compatible with dyeable capes. You do have to load our mod should come last in the load order between the two.
Yeah,
though.
in any of these instances. Yep.
Okay.
And what the guys are referring to is the House of Troubles Wilderness Hotel on Nexus Mods.
Yes.
And that is by the Couchware. So head on over and give it an endorsement. Give it,
an endorsement we would really appreciate.
Yeah,
give us some love.
Yeah. So anyway, those are our mod announcements. What do you have going, Jessa, that you want to announce? Anything to plug here?
Well, I have a few things to announce on the jessachannel.com, which is XCOM. Totally has nothing to do with Skyrim, but that's what I am. I'm a little bit ashamed to admit that I spent way too long last night kicking alien booty. Taking names.
It happens.
I was like, oh, what did you say? Let me respond with a shotgun to the face. Oh, sorry about that. Did that hurt? Oops.
Well, that's so out of your MO, though, Jess.
Yeah.
It's so violent.
Well, it is. Yeah, I know. You're right. I've made such a big deal about that. But I will tell you that the first thing I did, because of the being the way I am, I modded out the blood spatters as much as I could.
Yeah.
Because it's okay. Because in my mind, like if I'm shooting the alien in the face, it's like he's just playing dead, and he falls over, and then the camera pans away, and he gets up, and he's like, "Okay, that was fun. Let's do it again." So, but yeah, sectoid shotguns to the face.
I've never played XCOM. I've never played it before. So your Let's Play was my first exposure to the game. It's pretty cool.
It's so funny. But, actually XCOM, and I was thinking about making a post about this on Reddit, but XCOM is actually, I think, even though it is a strategy game, for those of you who haven't played it, you are a commander and you are saving planet Earth from an alien invasion. The aliens are all different types and whatnot. And it's turn-based strategy, which I like because it's not, go type thing. But it's actually more of a role-play game to me than a strategy game because you name your soldiers. You can customize them, give them different armor, different looks, change their hair, change everything about how they look. And you can give them a bio, and you become attached to your soldiers. So it's almost like you're, just like with a role-playing game, you start out with nothing and you gather supplies, which you can do in the game. You get better equipment. You become stronger. You're the real underdog. In XCOM 2, you're basically, it's guerrilla warfare. So, it's, you become an underdog, and you if you lose a soldier, it can be heartbreaking. You have built that soldier up from like nothing to being like this colonel, and they're strong, and then they get a muton bee slap to the face. Mutons are these huge, they're huge, kind of like Krogans from Mass Effect, but anyway.
Sure.
And they will haul off and slap you.
Wow.
Hardcore.
That sounds like it's putting it nicely.
Yeah.
It's fun. So you think, okay, I'm going to take my ranger, I'm going to scout up there, and I'm just going to, deal some pain with my sword, and you whip it out, and you bring the sword down on the mutant's head, and he just stands there like, what was that? And then bee slap. Right across the map. So yeah, that's been going on. Skyrim right now will be coming out again on the channel at the end of this month because I'm just trying to get a lot of XCOM content out while that's hot and fresh. And then we'll be going back to Kenlin's story. And Kenlin, daughter of General Tullius, Imperial spy, and Wonder Woman, dual swording. I always say sword. People laugh at me because I sword. Dual swording. Wonder Woman. Anyway, she's and her hounds, Miko, and her wolfhound.
Oh.
Yeah, she has 2 dogs running with her.
War
and
dogs.
then Maik.
Oh, that's right, Maik.
Yeah, those hounds are murder hounds.
Oh,
They'll go in,
Maik.
and we went in and cleared out with brutal efficiency. Okay, there was not any blood, but besides that, brutal efficiency.
Implied brutality.
Semi-brutal.
We cleaned out an entire enclave of the Reachmen.
Forsworn.
Forsworn. Thank you. Anyway, yeah. So I mean, basically, they sneak in. You know, she assesses and this is actually going to tie into our rituals thing, but you know, the ritual of starting combat. But she assesses the location, and then she points each dog to where that dog is going to be handling things. Maik lifts his bow off of his shoulder, pulls back with the arrow, aims down at his thing of choice, and then Kenlin, you know, because silence is definitely not her battle cry. Her battle cry is, "You are going down."
Mother effers.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And then she goes screaming into the battle, and the hounds just go flying off, and they're just, I mean, I have a photo of because a mod, one of the mods I have, fantastic mod, I've mentioned it before on our very long and extensive mod list, but it's it allows you to take pictures. It will automatically take a picture every second or something like that.
Yeah. Joe's a big fan of that.
Oh, I love that. Ever since I got that and from our discussion. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Killcam. Love it.
Killcam, that's it. And I was just looking it up on my mod list here. But the Killcam camera mod is fantastic. And I got a picture of Kenlin taking her swords and chopping down a bandit while her hound Scout jumped over her shoulder to dive for the throat of the bandit. That bandit was in so much trouble. That bandit was like, you know what? I really, really don't like this.
Did the bandit survive?
I feel very uncomfortable right now. I feel like my personal space is really being invaded, and
2-foot bubble.
I just don't feel really happy right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the last thing that bandit thought before Scout ripped its throat out, and that was it.
Perfect.
So,
Nice.
So we apologized. We said we're really sorry. That was inappropriate of us. But you're dead. So hey, so yeah, that's basically Kenlin, and her story is moving on to becoming an orc bloodkin.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yep.
So this is cool, in that in the vanilla Skyrim game, in order to become an orc bloodkin, all you have to do is head out for a radiant quest, I should say, to get the Forge Master's fingers for the orc chief.
Yep.
Once that is done, you bring that back to the orcs because they won't let you into their what is it called? A stronghold?
Yeah, you can't be part of the club.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, it's an orc stronghold.
Yeah, and the orc stronghold until you bring back this Forge Master's fingers. Well, I wanted to expand on that story and create, once again, a kind of ritual, which we'll talk about later on, for how to increase the story and roleplay potential around becoming a bloodkin.
Cool.
So we'll talk about that later on in the episode. But that's what's going on in the channel right now.
Cool.
On the JessaChannel.com or the Jessa Channel over on YouTube.
It's a lot of great stuff. I mean, there's just a lot of great stuff going on right now. I feel like getting, kind of ramped up with some stuff. for the summer.
Oh yeah,
and all
to have
that.
your channel coming out. I mean, it's just when your episode came out, I got comfortable. The cat's curled up next to me, and we just went into Skyrim and hung out with you and Robard. And by the way, I'm going to say this on mic. I've said it before we started recording, but dude, awesome voice. Awesome Robard voice. It's like,
thank you.
It's like Deep South Colonel Sanders meets Slap Your Ass, Crime Lord. It's like really good.
Yeah.
It's just like the minute I heard his voice, I was like, okay, take all my money because you're just.
It was weird. Anyway. Like Matt, I was talking with him on the phone once, and he said, "Wouldn't it be interesting if Robard came into the studio and was on the show once?" And I hadn't thought about that, and I'm like, oh, actually, that is kind of interesting.
Do some of his voice. Right? Do some of his voice. Let us hear it.
Okay, I can do something. Like what?
Ask me if I want some chicken.
I don't do chicken. Chicken disgusts me.
Oh, so, God.
Yeah. I don't care for chicken. So, yeah, today's episode was Spurious got a lot of hacking on in this episode, I think.
Spurious gets hacking on in every episode.
He kind of does. He kind of
leads himself into it, though. I mean, a little bit. He's just so naive.
Yeah.
About a lot of things yet. He's quickly learning.
Yeah, I know.
I think, but
get out of my way, pinhead. There's a lot of that going on.
I love how he kept calling his truffle. And
he's screwing up his name.
Yeah, I know.
Screw up his name. That was awesome.
Yeah. Don't fear, Mr. Trifle. I'll endeavor to make a suitable distraction for you.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Mr. Trifle.
Yeah, Mr. Trifle and Mr. Truffle. And yeah. So
that was great.
Yeah,
I
had an interesting exchange in the comments today after the video was released, where one of the viewers, longtime viewer, said that she had kind of thought that Robard might be more of a gentlemanly type of a person. It was kind of a funny exchange because we've always talked about him. The genesis of all of our conversations about Robard were kind of around, I want to make a character that's a dirtbag.
It's kind of an ass.
And that's kind of where the idea started, right? But so it was just kind of funny because I was talking to another viewer who was commenting about how they loved Robard, and I said, well, Robard hates you. Robard hates everyone, and it was kind of wink, wink. And she's like, I always thought he'd be nice. And then she sent a message later on. She got to near the tail end of the video where Robard basically ignores a child who's begging for money, and says, catch you later, like, I'm sorry. What is it you want? I ain't got no time for that. And then, she sent a message that just had the timestamp and said, case in point, kind of thing. But yeah, he's a dick.
I guarantee that he's going to have a fan club quicker than any of your other characters. I'm putting money on it now. Viewers, you heard it. I said it on air because women love the bad boy. Plus that voice, that's a panty dropper.
Good God.
It is.
I'm sure Robard would agree with that.
The knickers are going to be dropping in Skyrim.
Yeah. Robard would agree. He thinks a lot of himself, though.
Stuff and all that,
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
And a musician on top.
Yeah, I know.
Tom Jones action going on.
I know.
Women love the musicians.
Yeah. We've talked about this before. The interesting little opportunities that this game provides you with, if you're willing to open yourself up to them. So we've talked a little bit about who this character Robard is, and then I encounter this situation where I play in the crowded tavern. I go and get my money for having played. I get my free room. I go up to that room, and the hack of a bard, Mikhail, who normally plays in there, is laying in the bed.
He was.
And so I thought to myself, how would Robard react you know? And it was kind of like I went over there and went through the dialogue options, and there's really no option to say, get the hell out of my bed, because this is my bed. So, you know, it was kind of like I just kind of ignored him because he got out of bed then and was talking to me about how to woo women. And it was just kind of this whole thing about, well, I'll try anything once, you know, that kind of thing where, you know, if he's not going to get out of my bed, I'll try anything once. And, you know, and it's like, you know, you just get these like little gems of opportunities, you know. But I think actually that kind of plays into what we're going to discuss a little bit in our play theory segment tonight. I'm kind of excited about this one because I think that we all probably have more rituals than we realize. So I think this will be a fun one to explore.
Cool.
Yeah. Welcome back to Character Crusade. On tonight's play theory segment, we are talking about character rituals. And character rituals, as we're defining them, are anything that you do in game that helps you kind of set the mood, right? That helps you get into character or helps you have a sense of place and of purpose. And these can be small things, they can be large things. Some examples I can think of are if you do something like, for example, when you enter a town or a city, you change clothes, you get out of your armor, that kind of thing. Or, as Joe has mentioned before, when you get to that point where you're going to skin an animal or something like that, if you're using Hunterborn, you always switch to the hunting knife, whether it matters or not, whether the in-game mechanics require it or not. It's something that you're doing for your own purposes that make the game seem more alive to you. So we're going to talk about those tonight and see kind of what we all do individually, come up with maybe some new and interesting ideas for ways that you can create rituals and maybe some of the mods you can use to support rituals that you might want to try to create around a character. So I guess I'll start us off. One that was kind of obvious to me right away whenever somebody mentions in-game ritual, the one that comes to me all the time was kind of a one-time ritual, and this was in Aranis Arcana when we kind of have, to me, was kind of an important moment where Fleet sort of fully transforms into Cimmerian, and this was a one-time ritual. This was not a repeating ritual, but this is where he's going to a specific place to pursue a specific goal, and when he goes in to this barrow that is infested with hag ravens and so forth, he strips down into a completely different set of armor. He has body paint on and face paint that he's never had before. He kneels in prayer before he goes in, and then he does that whole dungeon crawl in that kind of persona, right? For me, what I was trying to do is create a one-time ritual that would convey the idea of a transformative experience. Mm-hmm. You know,
right. Yep, I remember that.
Yep, I think that's one idea of a ritual. And again, this was a one-time thing that I did, and it was fairly involved. My goal was to complete this entire dungeon as part of this transformation. And so that was kind of one ritual that I could think of. That's the first one that comes to mind for me.
Well, no, go ahead, Jessa.
It reminds me of how a ritual can actually become so big that it becomes like a small quest. For example, the ritual / quest that you did, Stu, with your character to go around to every blacksmith in Skyrim. I remember that. Mm-hmm. And that was like a ritual of preparation for your character and learning blacksmith skills. Was that correct? Or relearning them?
Yeah, this was actually something that I did with Sagramore. We've talked about him briefly in the past, but his whole persona was built around this idea that he was almost like a knight in the service of Hermaeus Mora. So he was all about acquiring knowledge. So what I did is I combined several game mechanics with a ritual of my own creation that created a story in my head for how all of these things fit together. So I had already gotten Sagramore up to level 100 in smithing, and I decided that I wanted to go legendary with smithing, turn it over, and I needed to try and explain how he was suddenly, in essence, starting from scratch in game terms in his skill of smithing. So the first thing I did was I did the side quest Ancient Knowledge and did that dungeon crawl through a Dwemer ruin and acquired the perk Ancient Knowledge, which gives you a bonus on smithing.
Could you give us a quick description of that side quest, Stu?
Absolutely. In this side quest, you go to Riften, and on the docks in Riften, you meet an Argonian woman who's kind of ranting and raving, right?
Yes.
And she gives you a lexicon and tells you need to return it. And you take it
now.
You go to a place called Avanchanzel.
Yes.
You go through the Akral. You return that lexicon, and upon returning the lexicon, you are granted essentially kind of a passive perk called Ancient Knowledge, which gives you a 25% bonus or something like that on smithing, or 15% bonus. I forget what it is. But it's called Ancient Knowledge, and I thought that seems like the perfect thing for him to do. So what I did was I converted his smithing to legendary. Then I did that quest to presumably acquire this ancient Dwemer knowledge of smithing. And then I did the full smithing tour of Skyrim, where I just took my time. I hit every smith. I gathered all the materials I could. I made as many things as I could and resold them, and went all around to all the smiths in Skyrim doing this. And then by the time I had made the full circuit, I had built my levels in smithing back up to level 80 and had that bonus to perk to boot, and then had, this great experience traveling Skyrim. I was on a very specific mission, right? But you're very correct. I mean, it was kind of a ritual-based thing that I had created on my own as an effort to try and explain what was going on with this game mechanic of going legendary on my smithing skills. So, yep.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was going to say that it makes sense in Fleet's transformation that it's a one-time thing, but it was very large and exhaustive. It seems like that if you're going to perform a ritual in that sense, if it's going to be just a one-time or seldomly occurring, that it should probably be a bigger deal. So that the smaller daily things help keep you going, but I mean, you're not going to spend half your day prepping this one thing. But if this is only a monthly occurrence or something you only do yearly as a character, then it makes more sense to spend a day on it.
Yeah, I think so. I love little things, too. Like, one of the things that I've discussed with viewers before is the concept of an ego signature, for either an assassin or a thief, right? Yep. Where I've had marginal success with this just because there are times when I forget to leave it. But there was a period of time, right, where when that particular character was an up-and-coming assassin. Every time he did an assassination, he left an ego signature. Which
I think it was a dagger at one point, and then maybe an apple.
Oh,
an apple.
It was an apple.
Yep. There was an apple and then a throwing dagger.
Yep.
From the fantastic throwing weapons mod that basically gave Mala her javelins, and I think it's a highly underrated mod.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's really what it was. The idea of ego signature is something that I had kind of pulled over into Skyrim from my exposure to that concept from pencil and paper tabletop role-playing
That goes
games.
back quite a while.
Yeah, we used to have the concept of ego signatures when we were playing Top Secret, which was an espionage game, and in that particular game, it was viewed as a weakness.
Right, I think you're right. Yep.
Because it was a way that somebody from the outside could conceivably tie all of your crimes together, right?
Identify you.
Oh,
But that's really what it is. I mean, it's you're making an announcement to say, we're the wet bandits.
You're pretty.
Deep reference.
we're
Sorry.
the red dog hand.
So, yeah, I love the concept of ego signature is cool. To me, ego signature takes an assassin from being a great assassin to being like a really kind of creepy assassin.
Well,
right?
it's laying down a challenge.
It kind of is. Yeah.
Here I am.
There
Come
are
and get
some
me.
great mods out there. In fact, I've seen one which allows you to actually, now I'll look it up in a minute, but it allows you to actually leave a card on the
Yeah.
Oh,
the
that
character.
would be.
And you can actually design the card. I think they include a Photoshop file or something like that where you can make your own design.
Yep.
Somehow alter the mod that way. If I vaguely remember, I'll look it up while we're talking. But anyway.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah. Great concept. I love that.
So,
Yep, your calling card.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Death was here.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, and that's really what that is.
Yep.
Very cool.
That's what the Dark Brotherhood does that already, in the vanilla game. They're
True.
leaving their little notes everywhere and stuff. Their calling cards. So,
Yep.
It fits the persona of assassin pretty well, I think.
Right. I think you could tie it to a thief really easily,
Oh, yeah.
too.
I love the idea.
The Black Panther, and not the
that.
Black Panther, but the Pink Panther
Yeah.
with the little glove.
Yeah,
You
leaving the
could
glove.
make
Yeah.
I'm sorry for interrupting. It's sometimes hard to tell when we're so far away over the phone line. But anyway, you could take one of those what are the sigils that are outside the house. The Thieves Guild signals, and you could actually
Yeah, I know
sort
what you
of
mean.
alter one to be your own calling card that
Sure.
indicates that this location has been cleared by you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah,
Yep.
good idea.
Burgled by Joe.
Or gold.
Burglaries by Joe.
Yeah. And I always kind of, I love the idea of robbing a safe or a lockbox and then, leaving a Horker loaf behind or something like that, leaving something gross in
Nice.
there,
Spider meat.
a bowl of spider meat.
Yay, we
Oh,
finally
God, it's so gross.
a use for spider
Oh.
meat.
Just when I thought there wasn't anything more disgusting than mammoth cheese, along came spider meat. Oh, so disgusting.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that is a product of Hunterborn, I believe.
Oh, yeah. Hunterborn produces some gross stuff, but it is kind of intriguing. You can choose not to turn on the Monster Hunter feature, but every time I turn it on,
Oh, yeah.
every time, I want to be able to, harvest a Charis steak.
Who
Oh
wouldn't?
God.
Who
Oh,
wouldn't?
God.
fry that baby up with a little onion.
Spicy.
Yeah.
Oh, a little bit of hot sauce.
Yeah, that's right.
Some grits on the side.
Boy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, that
Okay.
sounds good.
Yeah.
And a nice reduction of hag raven extract.
There you go. Just a
Yeah.
nice mild dipping sauce.
Hag raven extract dipping sauce.
Finished off
Oh, jus.
with a lightly sweetened roll. Naturally you have to have your sweet roll.
Well,
Oh,
to
okay.
finish the whole thing off.
course.
I was holding my breath, waiting for the grossness to drop, and it never did.
It didn't. I just figured, after all that goodness, you finish off with
Yeah.
a sweet roll, and then you down it with some skooma to get your life.
Yep. Awesome.
nice.
So, what other rituals can we think of?
Well, let me look. You want to go? Go ahead, Jessa.
Well, you know what? There's the ultimate ritual. What ritual do we all see in the game that everyone hears about ad nauseum from the barkeeps? There's that boy in Windhelm
Oh.
doing a ritual
yes.
to call the Dark Brotherhood.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's an idea. I wonder if you could role play. Is there some way using mods or using imagination that, you could role play calling the Dark Brotherhood yourself? I mean, so many times, let's turn the tables around. So much of the time, we are the Dark Brotherhood being called.
Yeah.
How can we
Right.
make it so that we are, perhaps calling an assassin for ourselves, or perhaps a ritual where you do the Dark Brotherhood. You actually look at what are the ingredients of the Dark Brotherhood ritual. What do you have to do? Well, you have to say the phrase. You have to gather body parts of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
That might be something that you could add in as well too, and then you would set it out. Like you could even use once again, my favorite mod, I mention it all the time, every episode, Jaxonz Positioner.
Oh, to spread the body parts out.
Spread the body parts out and create this completely morbid thing. Mm-hmm. And you could either, somehow create a follower who shows up, who is your assassin, and you instruct that follower to go off and kill with you. And the follower says, okay, but I won't do it without you watching me craft my art, for example. Or you could play it out the other way where no assassin ever comes, and that makes you so furious that you decide to search out the Dark Brotherhood and ruin them. There's a lot that could come from just laying out some body parts and having fun. If a Friday night.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. A good time. Some Nord mead body parts.
Let the bodies hit the floor.
That's
exactly.
right.
So that's one ritual.
That's a good idea.
I like that.
Yep.
It goes some places.
The circle with the blood and the things.
And the stuff.
I think that's how he describes it. You're here. I can't believe you're here.
And you just go ahead and say the ritual a couple of times,
Yep.
That's pretty, you could really go all out with it. You could go on a play. You could go on a pilgrimage where you find a cave. For example, using the mod, secret hideouts of Skyrim, I believe it's called, or hidden hideouts. Yep, hidden hideouts of Skyrim, and those are little places, just as it says, hidden all around Skyrim, and you could make it where you go and you're trying to find one. I remember you did this, Stu. Mm-hmm. You did a ritual, in order to give Fleet some new armor that really impressed me and opened my mind up to more role-playing opportunities. But in the beginning of season 2 of Fleet's series, I believe it was, or chapter 2, I should say, or maybe it's chapter 4. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That Fleet needed a new outfit. He had been, added into the Dark Brotherhood, and so you actually went to that opening dungeon we all go to, right by Riverwood.
Mm-hmm.
You cleared it out in this ritualistic manner.
Yep.
And Fleet then took to making his Dark Brotherhood armor. And just think about the role play opportunities here for you, the listener, in that, when we get new armor, we download an armor mod or something like that. We just slap it in the game, pull it up with that great mod that, I'm so sorry with the names, I'm terrible with the names, that allows you to just search for anything and add it to your character and call it a day and go out and start adventuring.
Yeah.
But think about, if you actually make it a whole ritual to make the armor and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I'll admit that, if I were just playing and I knew there wasn't an audience watching, I might take the more, the expedient route. But
yeah.
Knowing that what I was doing was trying to craft a story, it started me down this road of thinking about things like ritual. And in that particular case, what you're talking about is Amber Shade Mine, and there's just a few bandits in there, but the cool thing, the distinctive thing about that mine is that there's smithing equipment in there. So if you go in with all the materials that you need, you can kind of clear the place out and have your own private workshop to build stuff. And what I wanted to do that was kind of early on in the Let's Play. And, there was this, in that Let's Play, there's a whole series of symbolic transitions. Mm-hmm. That was the first symbolic transition where he went from the fur-clad mountain man to somebody who looked more like an assassin.
Something more refined.
Right. And the idea was he went in as one thing and came out as another. Right?
Yep.
Same concept then as we got further on during the Cimmerian transition where he went to the fancy armor with a mask that had only one eye and all that stuff. Right. He went into that barrow and then came out as something else. Right. So it's like a transformative kind of a thing. And what I like about that is it allows you to create, kind of flip that switch in your brain, right? To say, okay, now I'm resetting. Not only am I resetting how my character looks, but I'm resetting my mission and my attitude and my objectives and all of that stuff. And I kind of, as I was going through that process, I needed those transitions for me to kind of rally around this idea that he was getting progressively more and more into the religious or spiritual aspects of the Dark Brotherhood and becoming more devout with each step, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we had the transformative moment, right, where he gets stabbed in the face or whatever, and then we go to Act 2, and we come into Act 2 where he's got the patch over one eye, and he's back in furs, and he's living in a cave, and he's transforming again. And then he goes to that other Dwemer ruin and falls down the deep hole, which was symbolic of him, having this fall, right? And then again, at that point, he dons yet another suit of different armor,
right.
And so each one is a stage in his evolution. And I think we can do this with our characters in any number of different ways. The game, there's just so many opportunities. When I think of all the things spread around Skyrim, all the shrines, what kind of story could you create around a character who is seeking out every single shrine to Talos and doing something there?
Yeah, or all the stones.
All the stones, or, finding all the little obscure out-of-the-way shrines to Akatosh or whatever it is. Like, there's so many opportunities to do these kinds of things, and I think quite often we're so busy chasing the next objective that we forget that we can actually sit back and almost create an entirely new adventure of our own just by stringing together these little things and having the experiences along the way. So,
right.
That brings to mind, speaking of the little things, there is an amazing amount of content that has no map marker, that is unmarked locations. And I have been enjoying in this particular playthrough, when I'm not recording and I just want to go in and spend some time in Skyrim, I have been finding there's a mod out there called Atlas Map Markers. And it basically makes all of the little unmarked locations available for you to see. Puts a map marker on it. And you can have it in different varieties where you can have it so it all shows up on your map, from the get-go, whether you found it or not. Or you can have it like normal where it doesn't show up until you've stumbled across it. And for example, these are some of I'm just going to read a couple of these from the web, from the page on here on Nexus of Atlas Map Markers. And these are all things that are in the vanilla game that are actually, if you have the Skyrim Prima Guide, all of the unmarked locations are in the Prima Guide as well too. Many of the unmarked locations have like a little chest or a little something that you can find, a little lockbox, that kind of thing. And when you add this mod in, I have the version where you don't find it until you stumble across it. But you can also choose to have only some things show up. For example, the mod will show you every dungeon exit. It will show you every farm, every Hall of the Dead, for example, every lumber mill, things like that. But it will also show you in the wilderness small structures, loot, and other oddities. For example, did you know about Truist Camp, the Offering Altar, Lost Road, Land Grab, 3 Billy Goats Gruff is a real place in Skyrim.
That one I know about, and I've actually run across it accidentally.
And that's the neat thing. But the thing is that some of these things I have found are so well hidden that you could walk by them 100 times and never look around that one tree. Yeah. But sometimes there'll be a little story there. Sometimes there'll be something you can piece together. Sometimes there's a camp, a place I found way down in the south end of the of Riften area, a little bedroll and a skill book. A lot of times there's a skill book there too.
Right.
So bringing this back into Ritual, it's using this mod of Atlas Map Markers, which I highly recommend. you can just increase your playtime in Skyrim, another 5-fold just looking for all these things. A couple of other things here. I'll read a couple of other. Sabercat Rock. Let's see. Trapped for Eternity. King of the Mud Crabs. You know about that one.
Yeah.
Reachman's Altar. Black Art's Burial. There's another little place. These are all places I'm just randomly reading off.
Yeah.
So what happens is now when I'm traveling through the world, because I haven't discovered these places, I'll accidentally walk over it, never knowing it would have been there otherwise. And then you get a map marker for it.
Is there one in there about a mysterious ring of mushrooms?
I don't know. Let me see. Let me see.
Because I've found 2 of those now buried like in the forest, deep in the forest around Falkreath. 2 like perfect rings of mushrooms.
It doesn't say anything about a mysterious ring of mushrooms, but if you had this mod and it did have a name to that place, because these things have been named by Bethesda, it would pop up and you would say, that's what this thing is called.
What a great resource. I mean,
there's a ritual right there.
There are just all kinds of things like this.
There's so many. Oh, the poultry reanimator. Have you run into him? That is an actual place. The poultry reanimator is a little unmarked location where you will find a dead conjurer, a novice conjurer, and 3 I think they are still alive zombie chickens.
What?
Yeah.
Never seen that.
Oh, it's in there. Huh. and with Atlas map marker, you'll know it when you run into it, as opposed to, what I've done is I've actually made all the smaller things are kind of on my map, and so I go searching for them. Right. And it's just so much fun to find them.
It is, and
they're things that you walked by 100 times. Yeah. And that's when people say, "I've done everything there is to do in Skyrim. I've beat this game. It's so boring. It's so 2011. I'm like, you dip. I can't use the word on air. You blah blah. You don't. Do you know about Dark Elf's Grave, Rundy's Mistake, the Prospector Shack, the Burning Farmhouse? Do you know about those? They're like, no. I'm like, well, get to explore.
Yeah. I still find those things. It's kind of amazing. It really
running into something that you've never seen before.
Oh yeah. Just this week, I found a small campsite I had never seen before. And it was all because I was actually on my way to the House of Troubles. And on the way there, I got into an altercation with some Thalmor, which caused me to be wanted in Falkreath unexpectedly, which caused me to run out of Falkreath in a random direction and have to find an alternate path to get to the House of Troubles, which took me rock hopping in places where normally I didn't go, and there it was. A little deserted campsite with a skill book and a journal with a little story in it.
Oh, cool.
And it was like, what? This is awesome,
So, I mean, they made this game with all of this stuff for us to find that's plainly marked. Yeah. And then somebody or several people spent lots and lots of hours planting little things that thousands of people are never even going to see, And so, it's just a lot of fun.
Well, yeah, I mean, so many of those things present opportunities
for
rituals or for, special goals of some kind. This actually dovetails very nicely with what we talked about in the last episode when we were discussing hooks,
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Finding little things inside the game that you can use to hook your story into the environment, And so the resource you're talking about, what was it? Atlas map markers?
Atlas map markers. And it's basically a mod that makes everything that, and you can choose to modify it. There's some books that it puts into the Riverwood General Trader. And you can just click on those books and it opens up a menu and allows you to choose exactly what you want to have show up and when and how.
Cool.
And so it's very modifiable, and it's got 10,000 endorsements, so it is definitely not.
Can't be all that bad.
Yeah. Exactly. And, I think what we're doing, too, is, obviously, most of the people who find a lot of value in this podcast are people who are on their second, third, fifth, 10th playthrough on this game. When you get to that point, I think, the ship has sailed on this attitude that, I need to experience everything as the game presents it to me. At this point, what I'm doing is I'm looking for resources like this so that I can find things in the game that I can attach my story to and create these hooks or create these rituals. Mm-hmm. This is a great resource to find these obscure little things that you might otherwise only run across accidentally that could be perfect hooks for building a playthrough around. Mm-hmm. One of the things that comes to mind is down, let's see, I guess it would be southeast of Riften as you're headed towards the Dawn Guard area, right? Okay. There's a bridge and a creek that runs underneath that bridge. If you get off the bridge and go to the creek and then start walking upstream, you walk upstream and you come to this beautiful waterfall, and at the bottom of the waterfall, laying on the rocks, is a dead Khajiit who looks like he fell down the waterfall or was thrown down the waterfall, right? Mm-hmm. He's got a few minor valuables on him, but he looks like an average citizen. Now suddenly there's this whole story, right? And it's not explained. So much of this stuff isn't explained.
It allows you to create your own story.
Exactly. So immediately your mind is spinning like, what happened to this guy, right? Mm-hmm. And whether it's coincidence or not, up toward the top of that waterfall, there's a bandit camp. So is this someone they robbed and then threw down the waterfall? Or did they murder him and toss his body down there trying to get rid of it? Or was he simply climbing and fell? There's wolves that hang around that bridge. Maybe he was a traveler and got scared trying to escape the wolves, and they caught him in there and tore him to shreds. Or maybe he fell trying to run away from them. There's 1,000 different stories you could attach to something like that.
Exactly.
So,
and creating ritual from those stories, because ritual tends to come either to precede a story. Mm-hmm. In other words, I'm now about to create a story. I'm going to go make my armor, takes Fleet into the second chapter of his life. Or the ritual can, you find the thing of it, and then you create a ritual from the thing you found. You make a story. What could have happened to this guy? I don't know. Oh, it looks like, these clues lead to this conclusion. And then you make a ritual from that. What can I do with this information? A lot of people would look at that and say, well, that's fascinating and that's cute, and then go on wandering around killing bandits. But instead, you can make a story out of this. You can say, okay, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write a note, and I'm going to deliver it to the Khajiit caravan, letting them know that one of their brothers has been, found here. Maybe even grab one of the Khajiit, make them a follower, bring them back to the site, and do a little ritual of burial using that fantastic mod that allows you to bury your dead. I think it's actually called Bury Your Dead. So there's an idea as well too. And before we move on from this, because I bet that Joe has some rituals that he wants to share, and I have a few more, but I'm going to challenge the listener. I'm going to challenge you guys who are listening to this. There is an undiscovered location that I found called Pin Cushion Peter. And I'm gonna challenge you to find, it's in the vanilla game, available to everybody, Pin Cushion Peter. And if you found Pin Cushion Peter, you leave us a comment. And perhaps the guys might mention you in the next episode. If you say, I found Pin Cushion Peter, but you got to prove it, because you got to take a picture of Pin Cushion Peter.
Cushion Peter, let's be clear.
He is not easy to find.
This is not perforated Paul. That's a different different area completely.
It's not sliced upon Saul. No, it's
Cushion Peter.
It's not the headless guy on the horse either. No.
Oh yeah, he's fun.
He's fun. So Cushion Peter, on your mark, get set, go.
All right.
Let's see who comes back with something.
Let's get some results, people.
Let's get some results. Yeah. Come on. Let's see it.
Do it. Yeah.
So, Joe, what do you have?
Oh, boy. Let's kind of retread some of the things I know have been mentioned in the past pertaining to, again, I think we can go back to Grimal, my orc. some of the rituals he had.
Sure.
His were very visible in that he gathered orc materials, weapons, armors, etc., etc. He wore and used only orc made items.
And this wasn't because he was a collector.
No, it wasn't because he was a collector. It was because it was on principle.
Yeah.
It was a racial thing. He felt that only orcs should have those because they are the only ones
design.
worthy of wielding and wearing these kind of things. So that's definitely, I think, fits in the wheelhouse here.
For sure.
So did he, like, if he saw someone, like a bandit who wasn't an orc wearing orc stuff, would he just, like, kill the bandit and snatch the stuff off of him?
Generally, if I noticed that they were, I would probably instigate some kind of altercation. Generally, most of the time, though, it was one of those things where I would find it when looting afterwards. But that's it would definitely be fitting that he would start something to try to regain these items that didn't belong to them, regardless if they bought them or not.
Grimal's so confrontational. Makes me uncomfortable. So, yeah, I always loved that one.
Grimal doesn't care.
Grimal could care less. I love that.
So, and then let's see, what else do we got? We have Hinto. Hinto had a few.
He was Mr. Ritual.
He had a few rituals he followed.
Yeah.
He was definitely the
some
hunter.
of these things you were doing with Hinto were both kind of rituals and sort of your own set of play rules as well.
Yeah.
I think of your the map thing.
Yes. Yep.
You know, refusing to use maps and this idea when Joe was playing him of his inability to read and how you responded to that.
Right. So yeah, some of it was play style and, forced upon myself. I guess most rituals kind of are in some sense, but the map. So with the Hunterborn mod, it gave you the ability to create these artifacts, if you will. Yeah. And one of them was a bone knife that you could drop, and it would. It was very similar to the spell. I can't remember the name of the spell.
It's called the Divining Knife, right?
I believe that's called? I believe it was. But you drop it, it would consume the knife, but it would show you the path or the direction of your most current quest, your active quest.
Right.
So, not using the map, I had to create a hell of a lot of these divining knives.
In game terms, that's such like a powerful thing because it feels like prophecy, right? It feels like
and he was very ritualistic, spiritual type of character.
What was his? I didn't know this character, and for those of us who don't, what critically was his deal?
Hinto was kind of an offshoot of a Nord. I modeled him very much after the North American tribes, the Native American tribes. Primarily, I would say more the plains, or even in my area would be like the Ojibwe, that kind of. So that's kind of how I styled him, physically and kind of more in tune with nature and living with the land, kind of as a play style. Yeah,
we discussed him in early versions of this, early episodes of the podcast. Because he's kind of a shaman, right?
That was So he was kind of set forth by his tribe to gain the shaman abilities that he could bring back and manifest as the tribal shaman.
Yeah, I think one of the things that was cool about this is as Joe was playing this character, we were kind of thinking about this concept of how to play a character who was a magic wielding person, but the basis of their power was in mysticism rather than an intellectual pursuit, right? Yep. So we discussed this idea Joe had of making the character very specifically illiterate.
Yes.
So the idea was, how can we simulate in game the rituals around the concept of mystic or mysticism based magic, where it's based on some deep-seated spirituality or
Right.
Something like that, rather than reading a book.
And that's where I think the Dragonborn quest would have really come in strong, because that would have been his type of magic, would have been the shouts.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have been gaining spells through books because he didn't read. Although, there's part of it you could write off as, absorbing the magic out of the books because it's magic, That's kind of how that works. You can make shit up on the fly and it works because it's magic. But, that's how I wrote off the word walls. I mean, he wasn't reading them. He was absorbing the power from the word wall.
Absolutely. And I think we had this discussion of how perfect the dragon shouts were.
Right.
Because they were this thing that's sort of, intrinsic to the person. They're part of the individual in the same way that, their skin is part of them, right? Or whatever.
Right.
And so there was something really visceral about the idea of shouting or speaking a word and having it have a spell effect, right?
Right, right.
And I just remember us discussing this and toying around with the idea of what would it be like if you had a character whose whole combat focus was a combination of shouts and use of things like stabs.
Right, artifacts.
Artifacts and stabs and things like that. Like it just, and then immediately when you think of that, the first thing you think of is like shaman, witch doctor, kind of, wow, that's kind of you get that vision in your head of,
it's cool. A much more, I guess, more earthbound type of feeling than it is the arcane, aristocratic knowledge-based type of magic that you might get in the colleges.
Absolutely.
So that was Hinto, and then, but I started playing Enaroth shortly after I started him, and she took off with me so much I kind of shelved Hinto. But
do you have? I'm certain that you do have some fairly interesting rituals that go with her. She's a vampire and whatnot.
She's she is a vampire. She embraced that and sees the vampirism as very much a gift.
Right.
I do with her go through the whole clothing thing, so she'll come back to her keep, and she'll generally change clothes.
Do you have a sort of a wardrobe room like Stu had with Fleet, with the mannequins all around for the different armors for different occasions?
I don't have I would like to. I don't have the mannequins.
Because the mannequins are creepy.
Oh yeah, they are.
You wake up and there's one standing over you.
Oh
my God, those mannequins! It I can't bear them, so I wouldn't do that as well either.
Well, and part of that is somewhat of a limitation of Tundra Defense, because I don't believe you can purchase mannequins in Tundra Defense.
I don't think so.
So, but she does have a couple places where she does keep some of the things where. So she has a set of tribunal robes that she has kept at the Archmage's college. Yep. She's the Archmage, so she keeps a lot of her stuff there. So she has the tribunal robes because being a Dunmer, that's important to her. So yeah, she does. It's just not as quite as central as I would like. I actually, when it's completed, will probably use Caranthir Tower as her home base.
Yeah,
and I also have opulent robes of the Mage's College installed.
That's awesome.
And those are just gorgeous. So the first time I came across one of those, she was like, "Oh, this is like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." And part of her journaling, she's like, "I'm going to have a whole room full of these beautiful things, and I'm going to wear them every day."
Yeah.
So she's kind of has that ritual in mind, but she's not in a point where it's practical.
Right. That she's a devout worshiper of Mehrunes Dagon, right?
Yes.
So
she's very devout.
there's probably some rituals there. I know you have a very distinctive... She, as a character, has a very distinctive view of Mehrunes Dagon. Her vision of that god is as a female is exclusively.
She always refers
to her as a
she
female?
refers to Mehrunes as she whenever
Which is-
she's writing or thinking
love
to
that.
herself. And as we know, Daedric princes have they're all called princes, but they don't have a gender. They kind of are what they choose to
exactly.
be. So
Which I think
she
is so
chooses
cool.
to view Mehrunes as a woman. It's a she. That's how she
All right.
refers to her all the time.
What's her?
Yes.
I'm sorry about that.
No, that's all right. Go ahead.
There's a little bit of noise going on in the background, so I'm gonna mute my microphone until it goes off. Go ahead.
Okay.
Not a problem. Kind of like Grimal, she has chosen to only use Mehrunes' dagger now.
Okay.
And she recently came across Mehrunes' longbow, so she's shelved her more powerful recurve crossbow
Okay.
in preference of that weapon.
Right.
Does she dress ritualistically as Mehrune, as she sees Mehrune?
No, actually, I would love to find something that was, as far as armor goes or clothing. I would love to see something out there that was specific to Mehrunes Dagon or really any of the Daedric, but there really aren't many.
Yeah,
As
there's
far as
a few
armors go.
mods that add some things in.
But what she's right now, she had this witch. What is it? Witch blood. What is that mod?
It was like a red.
It was a red outfit.
Scarlet. I don't know. What
Yeah,
it was.
I'll have to look it up. She wore that for a while, just because it had a nice look to it. She
It's
kind of
Blood
likes
Witch
her
armor.
Blood Witch.
Yep, that's it.
Yep.
So
It's
it's really a well done. It's a nice looking set.
Yeah.
But she's put that aside when she started getting into the assassin stuff. So her whole goal here is, I'm going to use the Assassins Guild. I'm going to use the Thieves Guild. I'm going to learn the skills they have to teach me so that I can spread them to this little army I'm building so that when I take over the world, I can use these skills to do it.
Right.
So she's switched over from that armor set to something that's a little bit sleeker, that would be more practical, doing assassin type work or thieves type work.
Very cool.
And right now it is, what is she wearing? Oh, she was doing that. Now she's kind of getting into her heritage. So now she's wearing all netch leather.
Okay.
She's wearing Dunmer
stuff.
So she is actually.
How does that look? Is it? I
like it. I
Really?
like it. You can see, well, if you go to Character Crusade, the website, charactercrusade.com, on the
gallery
projects.
page.
No, on the projects page. Might be in
Okay.
the gallery.
Yep. Go to the project section and then scroll
And
down
scroll
to
down.
the Eneroth project. You'll see a picture of her in the Netch armor.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So
And
I like the look.
Oh,
it looks
It's-
really
all
good
right.
on her.
Yeah.
So she's kind of
Yeah,
into her
I see that.
heritage
It's
right
very
now.
Nice.
She's,
And you've
she's-
added a nice scarf in as well too. Or I don't know if that's part of the armor, but that's cool.
No, that kind of that shoulder thing.
Yeah.
Or the scarf. Well, the scarf kind of part in front is part of the armor. But she
Okay.
also has like this shoulder cape, and that's actually part of a Bosmer set. And it works pretty well with it. So
Nice.
So
I thought the netch leather might be kind of clunky looking, kind of like that, like the it's made of
the bugs, the bug armor, the bone mold and all that.
Yeah, bone mold. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
No, it's a lighter. It's definitely a lighter look. It's
Yeah.
a little more willowy looking.
It really suits her. It's very nice.
I like it.
So she, right now,
Well,
she's
kind of disregard the fact that you had to kill an innocent, harmless netch.
I didn't. I actually took that off of
I'm
one
going to
of.
go all PETA on you.
This was kind of an interesting little thing. Is so in Tundra Defense, I have built the inn. There's an inn that you can build with that mod. So I built that inn, and then I also have Guild Starter. So I have all these people that are hanging out in the inn from Guild Starter. and one of them was a Dunmer that wore the Netch leather armor, and I can't remember his name. I think he was one of the companions.
Okay.
So I recruited him, brought him down, and I go off on these missions. And this is the other thing with Inaroth is that after a while she'll start feeling kind of almost not guilty, but she really feels this draw to go back to. It really happens when she's been through an exceptionally harrowing experience or a difficult slog. She retreats back into Blackreach, into her tundra, into her fortress to kind of refresh, recoup, and just take note of what's going on. So she had done that, and she was at this, she went into this inn, and laying on the floor was this Dunmer.
Oh.
Somehow he got killed, and he was just sprawled out on the floor.
So he got it's almost as if he got injured on his mission and managed to crawl his way back and then died there.
Something like that. I don't know what happened.
Wow.
I hadn't seen that.
You didn't put him there, and it was just something that happened in game?
Something that happened in game, whether it was intended or glitch, I don't know. But
that's cool.
It worked out great because I took his armor. I took his armor. I had my favorite lady.
Out great. I stripped his naked corpse and danced around. It was awesome.
That's incredible.
I actually have this all journaled out. It's actually worked out really interesting. So I took his armor and I gave it to my lady Hayes and had her rework it to fit me because she is my blacksmith. Because Inaroth does no smithing.
Right.
Yeah.
So her smith worked it up for her and helped her get into it, and she's been wearing that ever since. But as far as the journals go, what I'm saying happened was this guy was trying to impose himself onto one of the other female members and was intercepted by one of the other members, and at the ensuing battle he got killed.
Okay. Yeah.
So
crafting a story that explains a seemingly random incident. You know, that's I think one of the really cool things about this whole concept of ritual, not letting opportunities like that pass by, because I always feel more satisfied in this game if I'm going somewhere with a purpose.
Right.
And we had a whole episode devoted to this. I think it was traveling with intent. We always talked about, right?
Yep.
And so if I'm sitting in my remote mountain cabin and I'm bored and I'm looking for something to do, I could travel to Halted Stream Camp and slaughter all the bandits in there if I wanted to. Right. But wouldn't it be much
45th time?
Yeah. Wouldn't it be much more fun if I went there for a very specific reason,
right,
on a very specific mission, and I did it with that level of purpose,
right?
Because first of all, the narrative you're creating inside your head is going to make the whole experience more fulfilling. But I would also suggest that the fact that you're coming up with that narrative means that you are going to pursue your attack on that location in maybe a very different way than you have in the past. Because some of us, you're right, Jessa, have attacked these different places or gone through these different places hundreds of times. So I did this very thing once with Halted Stream Camp. I came up with a concept, right, where I just said randomly, somebody in there did me wrong, right? And my goal is to go in there and I need to eliminate the people inside without alerting the people on the outside. And that was my mission. And so in light of that, I did it in a completely different way. I snuck up in the dead of night, and rather than going through the camp, I found that hole. I jumped down the hole.
Right.
Snuck in the back door, slaughtered everybody on the inside, and then crept back out again, and it was like a very different thing, right? So it was so satisfying. As I left, I'm standing on top of the hill overlooking Halted Stream Camp, and all the guards are outside doing their thing.
Right.
And that was after I'd been in, right? And it was like perfect. Like that is what I wanted to achieve, and it was much more meaningful to me that way, right?
That, I think, if I had to choose one adjective to sum up true role play in all its different forms is when it just hits the mark all the way down. It is so satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And
for sure.
This, all of your senses are involved, and you have, as I always say, gotten off the planet, basically, gotten into a different world, and created an experience just from just being creative and thinking outside of the four walls of Skyrim, the box.
Yep.
Oh, I hit that when I cleared out Felglow because I already had this big backstory on it.
Yep.
And it gave it a whole.
So
new
everything
meaning,
you
whole
look
new
at has
experience.
it takes the 2D experience of Skyrim, which is just on our monitors, and it really makes it 3D. And you step into it and you really are there. And with a storyteller, for example, what you do on YouTube, Stu, with a really good storyteller, you can bring guests along with you for the ride. So that's always really exciting. So yeah, I have sorry about that, hitting the mic. I have some more rituals.
Go for it.
Up for 'em. Okay, so before earlier on in the podcast, earlier on in this episode, we were talking with you, dear listener, about Kenlin and what was going on the Jessa channel and Kenlin's story. And she is my current Skyrim character. And little quick backstory about her. She is the daughter of General Tullius, as I've mentioned before. She's an Imperial spy. And she first came to Skyrim as a spy, pretending to be a man, a Stormcloak, a male Stormcloak. She infiltrated the Stormcloaks and stole the jagged crown from them and returned it to her father. And now she is going around in Skyrim and gathering basically an elite force to be basically a gotcha surprise to Ulfric Stormcloak when, the army or the fighting forces of the Imperial, led by General Tullius, will show up at the doorstep, and then Ulfric's like, well, that's all you got, whatever. And then out of the shadows, like these guerrilla, hiding out of the bushes, coming up, almost out of the ground, come this fighting force of incredibly frightening warriors that Kenlin has custom picked with herself at the head. So naturally, one of the best fighters in Skyrim, one of the best races for just pure, fantastic bombasticness is the orc. So Kenlin needed to head over and become a bloodkin.
Oh yeah.
And one of the rituals that she has is that she will meet with her father, and they will plan out the next leg of the strategy. They planned the entire strategy for, and I'll talk, if I'm on the episode where we do the 24 hours before your character came to Skyrim, I'll talk about that at some point. But anyway, basically, she will sit with Dr. Tullius. General Tullius.
Actually, I kind of like that. Yeah. Dr. Tullius.
I'm Dr. Tullius. I'm going to tap your knee and you will smack me in the oops. Anyway. But anyway, she'll sit down with General Tullius and they'll plan out the next strategy. So he said, the first, fighting force, I'd like you to get her to become one with the bloodkin with the orcs. And as I'd mentioned earlier, in vanilla Skyrim, that involves getting the Forge Master's fingers. But I decided to take that another step. I wanted, and though I hadn't played Oblivion, I had heard about the arena, and I really thought it would be really cool to create a kind of proving ground. Something that was along the line of even like a Klingon ritual, from Star Trek, where you didn't just have to go kill some Forsworn with your hounds and bring back this thing, dump it on the chief's bed and go, let me in. But you really had to prove yourself. And how would you prove yourself as an orc? Well, you'd shed blood. That's what bloodkin means, doesn't it? So
yeah,
it would seem.
It's not like, go over there and shed some blood where we can't see it. We want to see you prove that you are truly carry orc prowess in your veins.
Confrontational.
In your face.
Yeah.
So basically what I put together was using a mod called Make Your Own Arena, which is back up on the Nexus because I told you guys that it got taken down, but I went to the modder and I said, why did you take this down? And he told me his reasons and put it back up. So it's called Make Your Own Arena by a Kendrick on the Nexus. That link will be in the show notes as always. And what it is.
Wow, Jessa influences the mod community.
I got powers. It's called private messaging.
Oh man.
Yeah.
How does one get this private messaging?
I'll tell you later, sweetie. So anyway, yeah, what it does is, there were a lot of other arena mods on Nexus, and I looked at all of them, but some of them were really old, and not sure if they were really up to snuff code wise. This one is actually created in the last couple of months, I guess.
Cool.
It was fairly new when I found it, and it's very simple and ingenious. It takes it puts 3 things into your inventory when you load up the mod: a podium and 2 round discs, platforms that just sit on the ground. You put one platform down, then you put another platform down, a little bit farther away from it where you want your combatants to show up. So let's say you have set up some sort of let's say we're in an orc stronghold. You put one at one end of the orc stronghold, for example, or, right in front of the chieftain's longhouse and the other on the other side, So, and then you put the podium kind of, in the middle, a little bit far back, and you have this open space in the middle to fight. What you can do is you can call up on the podium a variety of enemies, as many as you want, from bandits all the way up to lurkers, giants.
No, thank you.
Lurkers are, for those of you who don't know, are these bile spitting things that are in Hermaeus Mora's plane of oblivion.
All the things we love: vomit and tentacles.
Yeah, basically.
There they are.
So they're really pretty and they smell great. So and they're fierce. They're definitely a high level enemy. Hag ravens, and all kinds of different things that you can just pull up. So you could do it where you are actually just watching the creatures fight. You've set up one on one platform and one on the other, and once you set them up, they'll automatically just start fighting each other. You can do it that way, but the way we're going to do it for this particular ritual is that Kenlin is going to choose. So the orc chief is going to say, basically, you have to prove yourself to us by fighting alongside our best fighter. If our best fighter decides that you are worthy of Bloodkin and have shed blood beside him or her, you will become one of us and we will join your civil war cause. Otherwise, you are dead to us. And if you die on the ground here, that proves you were no good. So, so they're going to go. So it's going to be this whole ritual thing. And this will all be on the Jessa channel. This will be an episode or series of episodes.
Sounds really cool. I like that a lot. That's
and
for sure.
She will
great idea.
Do this bathing where she has to go down to the river, strip down to her, loincloth or whatever it is they wear underneath their clothes in Skyrim, and bathe completely, and then come up and wear their armor. She will have to use their weapons, because if you're an orc, you're an orc.
Right. That's right.
Even if she says, I'm not skilled in those weapons, well, then you are not worthy to be one of us. And so she will do all of those things, and also using another mod called Death Alternative will add some drama to it, because if she gets hit a couple times and just dies and then you just have to reload the save, that's not as interesting. Death Alternative allows you to bleed out, basically allows you to go down to your knees. And you can configure it quite specifically so that, how much health you lose before you go down, how much you have to regain before you can stand back up, how many times you go down before you actually really do die, and what happens when you die, that kind of thing.
Cool.
And so basically, Kenlin's going to head on into the orc arena. All the orcs are standing around. They're yelling. They're screaming for her blood or to see some blood. And she goes in and has to fight first the strong, from the weakest enemy all the way up to the strongest enemy. And if she completes that, she's a bloodkin.
Wow.
If she wins, any fighter from any strong orc stronghold will follow her without question.
Wow.
So
That's
I imagine
amazing.
it just being this blood-covered, sweaty, thing, and it's going to be really fun to put that together.
Yep, that's what it should be. And I love that because you're taking something that's already in the game and you're really elevating it.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
This is Grimal approved.
Yeah,
So
Grimal would love this.
That's a
Absolutely.
ritual arena that you can do, and then if you also, listener, do put something together like that, let us know about it. If you set up your own arena, and also it's a great way to, if you want to just have fun practicing combat styles or leveling up your character, that's a fantastic way.
Sure.
So if you only need one platform, if you're going to do it that way, and you just spawn something on it, and they'll stand there. They won't attack you. They'll only attack what's on the other platform or has come from the other platform.
Sure.
So in order to initiate battle, you have to just attack them, and then after that, they'll all go after you and beat the crap out of you.
All right.
Perfect.
Nice.
I love that idea. That
that's
is great.
That is good.
I think there's so many times that what we do is we create ritual by taking something in the game and then elevating the gravity of it by building our own story or mythos around it using mods or just using the story that's playing out in our head or whatever it is. That particular objective of, getting the Forge Master's fingers and becoming bloodkin and stuff. I've seen some occasions where you can kind of shortcut that bloodkin process. And, I like the idea of actually going through that ritual. I did that at one point with Fleet as well, where he was looking to get the assistance of an orc tribe. And he went to them and they said Forge Master's fingers, and he went and got the Forge Master's fingers, and he came back and he had the fight and he did all of that stuff. I didn't go to the extent that you are, Jessa, but I had a whole sequence where prior to this fight happening, this fight was, I basically set it up to say they are going to fight at dawn or whatever, and so, I set it up so Fleet was basically in psych up mode for a period of time. Overnight he was sitting by the fire waiting. He was in his battle garb with his war paint and he was ready to go, right? And it was just this idea of kind of getting prepared for the confrontation. And I love the approach you're taking to that, because that, in essence, though, I mean, if you were to just go with the vanilla experience, that is something that you could wrap up in 15 minutes and then go about your business.
Exactly.
But you've been able to turn it into something that's really significant, and when you come out the other side, it's going to be so much more satisfying.
Satisfying. There's that word again.
Yeah, you'll feel that you've really earned that title.
So she will be walking around.
You can walk into any stronghold and hold your head high.
Yeah,
exactly. And they will welcome her. And there's so much more.
Makes sense.
Exactly. And there's also, not only does she win to be a bloodkin, but of course I'm going to have the chief give her some special weapon that is just hers for basically for the joy of living, because she's still alive, because, the chief would make it clear that 90% of the people do not make bloodkin. They just don't. They're dead. There's a pile of bones out in the backyard, where they threw the dead, combatants off the over the parapets. But it just creates more.
That just doesn't seem like it should be something that's easy.
No, it should.
Just knowing, getting the feeling that you do of that orc nation.
Yeah. Yes,
it should be more difficult.
You get to feel. The whole point is not just to, of course, shed blood. Of course, that's great. Let's have some, and make an arena and build the whole, what do you call that? The whole feeling inside yourself. I forget the words, but anyway, you'd get that animalistic feeling going about it.
Yep.
But it's also that when you are finished, in your blood what it is to be an orc, as close as any non-orc can get.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So there's one more ritual that I have to bring to the table that ties into what I just said about the Orc Chief. And that is that, I think one of the best rituals in playing Skyrim, one of the reasons why the game is so long lasting and it's been out for going on 4 years and we're still just playing the heck out of it, is that the ultimate ritual for me is searching for the mods that are going to give you the experience that you want. Am I right, gentlemen?
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Can I get an amen? Yeah.
Amen.
Anyway.
Yeah.
You got it.
How many hours spent playing versus browsing Nexus?
Well, how many times have you gone to your computer, launched Mod Organizer or Mod Manager, whatever, with the real intent of launching that game and playing, but there's just that one mod that you heard about just last minute that you're going to go and look for,
or that you just
and then 2 hours later you're still scouring through it because you found 4 others that sound really cool.
Yeah, it's happened.
It's amazing.
So many times.
You listen to Character Crusade again, and they mention like 17 mods you haven't heard of again, and those jerks.
That's right.
That's
just
right.
ruined it again. Now you have to go find them.
Well, I'll mention the other one that I actually do have a ritual with, and that is the take notes that we've mentioned several times on
for sure.
in-game writing is take notes, and I generally will not do any kind of writing unless I am in a place where she can sit down at a table.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
I haven't gone to the extent of carrying quill and ink. I probably should, because why not?
Yep.
But, I'll always find a place that I can sit down, even if it's for 5 minutes, because it doesn't make sense to me otherwise.
Yep. No, that makes a lot of sense. I think there's so many opportunities in this game to build ritual, and some of them are fairly minor. One of the things I think about is the Civil War quest line. Whether you're advancing that quest as a Stormcloak or an Imperial, as you go through that, there are several points along the way at which you will be told by your superiors that you've attained a rank and been given a title, right?
Yep.
And there are so many opportunities
to turn that into something more.
Turn that into something meaningful.
Sure.
To say, what does this title mean, and how is my character going to look different given this title change, and how am I going to transition, each time this happens, right? So, there's stuff like that happening all around you all the time, and you can make what you want of it. Sometimes we just need to travel from point A to point B.
Right.
But if you're willing to sit back and take a little bit of extra time, you can make that journey a lot more interesting, depending on the character. So,
with writing and with graphics, with Joe sitting down, and I mean, thank God for the take notes mod, but even if that didn't exist, writing down something.
You can still do it,
You can still write it down and that kind of thing. But also, for example, one of the things that we haven't explored, I haven't heard of anyone exploring with the characters, you've gotten the title of Archmage, or, the listener, and other factions have flags, but often people have coat of arms, for example, in our world. So what about the idea of before you retire your character, you create this coat of arms that represents everything that they ran into? For example, it has a giant's club in it, or it has, or for Kinlet, it has the imperial symbol combined with perhaps her father's personal symbol, combined with the bloodkin symbol, all come together to create this coat of arms. And you can, it can't be too hard, and using the creation kit to create a mod where you can put it in as a painting, put it in as a flag, or even put it in on your armor breast. There's all kinds of things, the breast of your armor, that you can do to kind of tell the whole story around. Right. Add more external that we can do to add to the internal.
I did something on a much lesser scale, but something similar to Sindirian's Field House. And when I decided that was going to be home base, I did go into Creation Kit, and I cleaned out all the clutter. I added a fireplace that was lit, and I replaced the banners that were Dwemer banners hanging there with the Mythic Dawn banners.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when I actually completed the Mythic Dawn museum quest, I took that guy's robes, and usually when she's down in her domain, down in Blackreach there, she'll switch out her clothing for the Mythic Dawn outfit.
Mm-hmm.
Because as their queen, she needs to look a certain station when she's out with the other people.
Yep.
So on that banner theme though, I did actually swap out some of those banners from the Dwemer to the Mythic Dawn.
If you get creative enough, you can make it so that pretty much everything that you have in your home environment, your character's home or place of rest, wherever it is has significance.
Right.
You know,
And if you're a little more savvy with some of the imaging programs, Photoshop, etc. You can certainly make up your own. I know. Well, there's one hanging in the House of Troubles.
Yeah,
exactly.
Custom banners there. Character Crusade logo on them.
Yeah.
But
cool. I think that's a brilliant idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
think
like that
the final ritual that I have is really quick, and that is the ritual of silence. This is an idea I was thinking about today as we talked about whether we were going to do this or not, this particular subject. And I think it'd be a neat idea for your character, no matter what. Let's say, they're going to go on a pilgrimage, or they're a monk, or whatever it might be, but if it fits in with your character type, that your character goes on this ritual, this quest, this pilgrimage, and doesn't say a word. And you perhaps as the player use it as a meditation. You don't, you try and clear out your mind and pull yourself right into Skyrim, and your character just goes, for example, to every altar of their god and places something special that they have. That you have given them in their inventory, or that you found some cool mod that adds some new item that you can just give to each god, and it's completely silent, and I bet that could be pretty interesting. So I
may actually do that coming up, because I'm also right in the midst of Solstheim, and speaking of Hermaeus Mora, so I'm at a point where now I need to read one of these black books for a second time. And so Inerat's actually been to his realm a couple times now, and it kind of creeps the hell out of her, oddly enough. She's a kind of a creepy person, but that's just a creepy place. She is not, she's come back, she went back to Skyrim because she's not ready to go back to that realm again yet. So that would be a perfect way for her to kind of play that, to get herself ready to go back into that world.
Yeah, I mean, think about...
Just take that bit of silence.
How significant that is, being transported to this otherworldly type of dimension ruled by a god that's completely foreign and scary, right? But knowing that you have to go there to accomplish something.
Right.
What are the steps that you would take in order to prepare yourself to make that journey?
Right.
There's any number of different things you could do. One of the things that that I used to do that's very simple with Sagramore was, as I was going through the dragon quest line, the blades.
Yep.
He was kind of all about this concept of fighting dragons, and this is before he really realized the blades were involved or anything. The profound event of having absorbed a dragon soul created this ritual where he was a two-handed weapon wielder, and he used almost exclusively great swords. But with him, I found a really cool battle axe, and that battle axe became a weapon that he sanctified for killing dragons, and that's all it was for. And killing dragons became a ritualistic thing for him.
Oh, sure.
To the point where he would prepare himself for quite a long time, and where it really got interesting was in the end game with that whole scenario, where when you get to that point where you can recruit other people into the blades, and Esbern will tell you when dragons have been sighted and you can go and hunt them. going to hunt a dragon with the intent of hunting a dragon was an extremely powerful thing, because there was the preparation for that, and he had special armor and special weapons that he only used for fighting dragons, and it was a ritualistic process where he would do prayers, and he would eat certain things, and he would travel there in a certain way, and then he would don his armor, and he would confront the dragon typically at a certain time of day. It became very, very methodical in the way that he did it. But it was so cool, because if I'm adventuring around Skyrim fighting bandits, I'm wearing whatever I want to wear. But then the time would come where I'd unpack the horse, I'd set up my camp, put on the special gear, and then it's stride up the hill and confront the dragon. It was so much more, a much more moving experience. And I'm replaying that same kind of scenario in many ways in my Let's Play with Julian, because Julian is very, very focused on his research into Dwemer civilization and technology. And when he goes into a Dwemer dungeon crawl, he goes there with all of his fancy gear and his equipment, his tools and instruments and his pack horses, and he sets up camps, and he makes remote camps inside. And he'll set up a string of kind of interconnected camps so that he can gather all the stuff that he finds to research. And I go to the steps of putting sketches into his journal of the things he finds.
Cool.
And he has special gear that he wears so that if he finds himself in a space that's submerged, he's got a special helmet and a different outfit that he wears for going underwater and exploring. And then he'll set up a camp to warm himself when he gets out so he doesn't get hypothermia. And, it's like all of this stuff, right? It makes going through a Dwemer ruin so incredibly interesting,
Yeah, I bet it would.
It's all up to it's like every time you do it with each character, there's like a different color palette almost, or a different feel for something that other people might look at as saying, I've done this 100 times already, I don't want to do it again. But you haven't done it with this through this character's eyes, which is entirely different than this character.
If you're thinking like that, it's because you've done it 100 times the same exact way.
The same exact way.
Absolutely.
And you definitely, haven't been role playing it, that's for sure. Because it's it's like trying to say, playing with because you're basically playing entirely different people with entirely different experiences. And so many people think that role play is about, okay, I'm going to just make this kind of weapon. This character's going to use this weapon, and this character's going to be a thief and use this weapon. And that's just like saying, okay, I'm going to be a human who happens to breathe this way. It's just so basic. There's so much more to a character and so much more to us as human beings. And I think when you're really in the sweet spot of role playing, the character is actually becoming alive to you.
Yes.
As you play them.
Yes. Yep. I would agree.
And you don't even know how the character. You have no idea, and that's the best thing. It's not like, oh, the character's going to end up like this, and it's all going to happen like that. Then you're just sort of playing. You're just going through the motions.
Yep.
But when you're really role playing, it's all organically happening right in front of you, and you don't know what's going to happen next. You know.
Yep. All of the rituals that we make have the power to take apparently seemingly minor events in the game and transform them into things that can potentially be
alter your whole experience.
Yes, like life-altering kinds of character experiences. It's amazing. So, you could, Jessa, just go get the Forge Master's fingers and bring it back and have a fist fight. You could do that.
Be done
right?
with it.
and maybe she would walk away from that situation saying, geez, I'm really glad I'm bloodkin.
Yeah.
But if you go into that, right, and you create this experience like you described, your character's going to be a different person walking away from that.
She walked in as Kenlin, General Tullius's daughter. She walks out in with that same aspect of herself, but with a whole new aspect of her persona having developed. Perhaps she finds out that she is incredibly animalistic herself and never thought it, never knew it. Or perhaps she finds out that she is transformed in her brain in some ways, and her mind is deeper understanding of the races, which makes her a better diplomat later on in life, for example.
For sure.
You know?
Come out saying to herself, so that's what bloodkin means.
Exactly. Whereas other people are like, I'm bloodkin, I got some fingers, and I threw them at...
They're still in the gloves.
Well, dear listener, I think what we're saying here
is that ritual is awesome.
Ritual is awesome. It's important for role-playing purposes. And if I were to try to come up with an analogy for what I think this kind of role-play looks like, I think of it as sort of the snowball rolling downhill. And as it rolls downhill, we're gathering experiences, and those experiences are feeding the next experiences, and over time, as we get closer to the bottom of that character's run down the hill, we see the accumulation of all of these things that create the whole of the character, right? So, you know, a good story moves from conflict to conflict, and each conflict heightens the next one, for example.
Right.
And I think that's what role-playing is, in essence, is everything that your character experiences becomes part of that character and then feeds into the way that you react in the next experience.
Right.
And it just all builds. I think it makes for much more interesting characters, and I think this idea of ritual is at the heart of the whole thing when it comes to I think the secret to role playing in Skyrim. You know,
and I think too, if you look back, when you get to the bottom of that hill, you're going to be surprised that it didn't always take the path you thought it was going to.
Yeah, that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, that's what makes it interesting and constantly evolving.
Absolutely. Well, dear listener, we've come to the end of another episode. We would like to thank fans of the show for your faithful support and continued encouragement. Your enthusiasm is the lifeblood of this podcast, and whether your support comes on Patreon through dollars, or through iTunes with reviews, or even through recommendations to your friends and family, or even pastries. We appreciate it all. You can contact us through our website at charactercrusade.com. And until next time, remember, it is not about the objective. It's about the experience. So go forth and journey.
Experience. Remember, the best mod is your imagination.
That is so true, Jessa.